Hey, good day, America. Good day. It is the Truth to Freedom podcast. I'm one of the half hosts here, James Parker, and I'm along with my other brother in power, Mr. Quentin Williams. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How you doing?
Can't complain, sir. It's cold, um, but we're good. We got heat, so thank God for that. I tell you though, I this is the only thing I don't like about North Carolina because where we sit in this geographical alignment of the U.S. states. Our state, for some reason, sits to where it always falls in that fault line. Like half going to get this, and the other half may get that, and we just can't never get um the full blunt of whatever. Because they made it seem like we was going to get some snow. It might not be
Yeah,
a lot of snow, but they made it seem like we was going to get some snow. And you wake up the next morning, and all it did was just spit. That's all, just spit on it. It wasn't even nothing to get um, excited about. But because we don't get that kind of weather, of course, when they say snow, we react and we go drain the stores and shelves are empty because we're hunkering down. We thinking we're gonna be in the house for a couple of days, and then of course we get disappointed. So that's the only thing. I wish we was either further up the state line, the Mason Dixon line, to where we can get something on a more constant basis, or just don't get nothing at all. One of the two. But
yeah.
it's still early in the game, and we might get something. Who knows?
Yes, it snowed in March one year, didn't it?
It did. It did. All the way into March, it snowed. So we're due though. It's been several years. We actually had to have gotten a decent snow. So
Yep.
we're due. And the way the jet jet stream keeps dropping every time you see it, it's bringing all that cold weather. Like tomorrow, man, they said it's gonna be brutal. So the cold air is making it this way. Um, we just need the moisture in the clouds to follow down this way too. So, but we'll see. I don't know. But anyway, America, we hope everybody is doing well, and we're here back for another episode. And my brother Quentin um, did some research and pulled us some stuff, and so we're going to discuss. How you say that again, Quentin? I can't say it.
Oligarchy.
Oligarchy. Yes, we're going to discuss that. So if you like me, I never heard that word, and after I looked at the research that Quentin had sent me, I was like, hey, that's what we're in now, pretty much. Um, so to start this conversation off, there's two videos that we're going to watch that kind of give us the context of what we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to turn over to Quentin, and we'll have a discussion on that, and then at the end of our segment, there we're going to talk about a famous lady who probably should have gotten more credit for what she done, but we're gonna watch a little story on her and have a discussion. I think that this will point out some of the things that we've been talking about when it comes to parties and just who do they really support and what are they really trying to support. So, but we'll talk about that at the end. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch over. Switch over, switch over. I need to switch over. All right, so this first one's like 3 minutes. Another one I think is 7 minutes. So we'll watch these in their entirety. It's not that long. Then we'll have a discussion. Here we go.
Oligarchy means government of and by a few at the top who exercise power for their own benefit. It comes from the Greek word oligarchos, meaning few to rule or command. Even a system that calls itself a democracy can become an oligarchy if power becomes concentrated in the hands of a very few wealthy people and a corporate and financial elite. Their power and wealth increase over time as they make laws that favor themselves. They manipulate financial markets to their advantage and create or exploit economic monopolies that put even more wealth into their pockets. Modern-day Russia is an oligarchy, where a handful of billionaires who control most major industries dominate politics and the economy. Well, what about the United States? According to a study published in 2014 by Princeton professor Martin Gillens and Northwestern professor Benjamin Page, although Americans enjoy many features of democratic governance, such as regular elections and freedom of speech and association, American policymaking has become dominated by powerful business organizations and a small number of affluent Americans. The typical American has no influence at all. This is largely due to the increasing concentration of wealth. In a 2019 research paper, UC Berkeley economics professor Gabriel Zuckman determined that the richest 1% of Americans now own 40% of the nation's wealth. That's up from 25 to 30% of the nation's wealth in the 1980s. The only country Zuckman found with similarly high levels of wealth concentration is Russia. America has had an oligarchy before, in the first Gilded Age, which ran from the 1880s until the early 20th century. Teddy Roosevelt called that oligarchy the malefactors of great wealth, and fought them by breaking up large concentrations of economic power, the trusts, and instituting a progressive federal income tax. His fifth cousin, Franklin D. Roosevelt, further reduced their power by strictly regulating Wall Street and encouraging the growth of labor unions. The oligarchy fought back, but Roosevelt wouldn't yield. Government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob, he thundered in 1936. Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred. But the American oligarchy has returned. We're now in a second Gilded Age. As the great jurist Louis Brandeis once said, we can have democracy in this country, or we can have concentrated wealth in the hands of a few. But we cannot have both. We must once again make the correct choice and reduce the economic and political power of the American oligarchy. What do you think?
All right, so he brings up some great points about this, and we've actually have talked about this on previous podcasts as far as the accumulation of wealth and where it's going and how it's affecting us as a regular Americans. But he just brought up a good point as far as the concentration of wealth. These people are behind the scenes running the power. And like we was talking about the stock market doesn't adjust itself. It's adjusted depending on who's buying and who's selling. You actually have hedge funds and companies out there that are backed by billions and some trillions of dollars where they can come in and buy up a particular stock to drive the price up. And then when they get that price up, what do? They dump it all and make a killing.
Yep.
And that's what you was talking about before, Quentin.
Yep. Ain't no such thing as a free market, nor does it self-regulating.
Exactly. It's all manipulated. All right, so this last video was not the last one, but this next video we're going to see is about 7 minutes. But this is Bernie Sanders, and he's talking about this as well, but he's also relating this to the shutdown that we were about to have, and then Mr. Elon Musk put his 2 cents in it and just caused these people to lose their minds. So Bernie Sanders gives a really good detail of what led up to it, what was supposed to happen, what almost happened, and what did happen. And he's going to give his account. So let's listen to Mr. Bernie Sanders.
As I am sure you have heard, there is a lot that's going on here in Washington, D.C. So let me say a few words and try to explain it. Bottom line, after all is said and done, is that after months of negotiations, Senate Democrats and House Republicans reached an agreement called a continuing resolution, which would continue to fund the government for 3 months. Frankly, that agreement was not something that I was all that excited about, but it was better than nothing. And I was prepared and am prepared to vote for it. And one of the reasons is that it contained a reasonable increase in funding for primary health care, something that I feel very strongly about and that my committee, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, is responsible for. And given the enormous crises that we're facing in healthcare in this country today, it really would be of help to many millions of Americans. What this legislation would do is significantly, or modestly at least, increase funding for community health centers all over this country, which treat about 30 million Americans who are low income or working class. And it would also increase the number of young doctors who go out into rural America and also into underserved areas. That is where we need the doctors and the nurses, and that's what this legislation would do. In any case, within the House of Representatives, the Republican House, and the Democratic Senate, there was widespread agreement on this resolution, and it was just about ready to be passed. In fact, the Republicans posted it on their website. We were ready to go. But then, out of nowhere, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, began tweeting his opposition to this legislation. In fact, he was very blunt about it. He told Republicans that if they voted for this proposal, which they had already agreed to do, he would take out his wallet and spend as much money as it took to defeat them in primaries and drive them out of office. You got that? Take a deep breath and appreciate what's going on here. The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party. And what he is saying is, hey, Republicans, forget your constituents, forget your constitutional responsibilities. If you don't do what I, Elon Musk, want you to do, you're out of office. And I have the money to do just that. My friends, what we are looking at here has nothing to do with democracy. What we are looking at here is oligarchy. This is up and up. Government by the billionaire class for the billionaire class. And by the way, Musk is not only trying to intimidate Republicans, he is trying to inject himself into the Democratic Party as well. He is threatening to target Democrats who are standing up to him and his agenda. Further, and very dangerously, and this is the guy you know who owns Twitter, as part of his campaign to defeat this resolution, Musk has been spreading an enormous amount of disinformation and outright lies about what is in the bill. He said that the measure would include a 40% pay raise for Congress. That's a lie. It is a 3.9% increase, the same as federal employees are receiving. He said that this legislation would fund bioweapons labs. Not true. In fact, it provides funds to protect Americans from emerging infectious diseases. He said that the country would be just fine if the government shut down. Really? Here's what happens if Mr. Musk gets his way and the deal implodes. Funding for kids' cancer research gets cut. At a time when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, pharmaceutical middlemen will be able to continue to overcharge you for your prescriptions. Americans recovering from devastating floods, fires, and hurricanes, often due to climate change, won't get the help that they need. That's what happens if the proposal goes down. And what happens if the government shuts down? Well, our troops won't get their paychecks. Nearly 7 million women and children who rely on WIC nutrition assistance could go hungry. And 2 million federal government workers, some of whom don't make a whole lot of money, won't be getting paid. Now let us be very clear. Elon Musk was not elected to be president of the United States. In fact, he was not elected to be dog catcher. And by the way, what all of this hoopla is really about, above and beyond everything I'm talking about, is that when Trump and Musk come into power in late January, do you know what their first order of business will be? You think it'll be to fix healthcare? You think it'll be deal with climate change? Deal with homelessness? Well, if you thought that, you're dead wrong. Their first order of business will be to provide massive tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. So think about it. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when Musk himself is worth almost $500 billion, what these guys want to do is give more tax breaks to billionaires and the heads of large corporations. So where do we go from here? Let us understand the gravity of what we are dealing with. This is not politics as usual. This is not just Democrats versus Republicans, conservatives versus liberals or progressives. It's much deeper than that. What we are dealing with right now is that the billionaire class, which owns so much of our economy, which owns so much of our media, they are now moving aggressively to own our political system as well. So we got a lot of work in front of us. We've got to educate, we've got to organize, and we have got to stop them. Thank you very much. Have a great holiday season.
All right, people. I mean, he was very clear, and what he said really, it's not a surprise. It's what's been happening. But I think now, like he said, they're now at a point they're ready to go full out with their agenda, and they're not ashamed to hide it anymore. See, before they were doing stuff behind the scenes, undercover, making it seem like one thing when it was really something else. And meantime, we're like the Walking Dead. We're just feeding into whatever and not really paying attention to what the real agenda is. But now you got Elon. He's bold in what he's doing. He think he's untouchable. And so he's going to be aggressive, but they've been buying politics. They done bought everything else. And a lot of you people need to go and research some of these companies. You'd be surprised how many of these huge corporations own a lot of stuff that you deal with on a regular basis. They're not individual companies as you would think. There's a lot of these companies, they just kept the name or they got it under another LLC or whatever. But when you track to whoever really owns those companies, it's one entity that's controlling all this stuff. But anyway, Quinn, I turn it over to you because I know you got a lot to add.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Um, so personally, I don't think that we talk about America is now an oligarchy. I think America's been an oligarchy for most of its history. You know, there have been periods where you had legislation passed for regular people, just like the New Deal. But you know, this isn't anything like you said. This isn't anything new. And I always use the founding of the country as an example. At the signing of the Declaration of Independence, only wealthy white men were allowed to vote. I mean, that sounds like an oligarchy to me.
Yeah.
So I think what we're seeing now is just that the mask has been taken off, and you know we're seeing things like you said. Usually is going on behind the scenes and we don't see it, and but the mask is coming off. And Elon, who does think he's the smartest man in the world, whose ego is bigger than Trump's, didn't know that was possible, but he does think very highly of himself, and he has a huge following. And there's a lot of people who like him who also believe he's the smartest man in the world. Meanwhile, his ideas, he doesn't factor in regular people in his ideas. He's only concerned about growing his companies.
Well, what kills me is the people that are following him and giving him these accolades and he's this and he's that are the same people he would step on to get to the other side of the road. That's what's amazing about this, man, that people get so wrapped up in this herd mentality and they listen to the mess that they feed them and believe it. And these are the same people when it's said and done, when he's done with them and he don't need them anymore, he's gonna push them to the side and step on them and erase them off the face of the earth, just like he's trying to do everybody else. He's gonna do it, folks. I'm telling you. I don't know why you following him, if you're following him, but he don't care about you. He is the poster child for selfishness. He's the poster child for not being a compassionate person. He's the poster child. I'm telling you that. He's the poster child because if he had any compassion, for anything. Not saying that I'm telling him what he needs to do with his money, but to be a $500 billion and I don't know how much of that is liquid assets. I know they combine everything. They combine all his assets. So you're talking about his businesses and all this other stuff. But regardless, you don't hear of nothing that he's done to help the fellow man that I know of. Now, if there is, y'all more than welcome to leave it in the comment section. Um, if 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 he did, 'cause I don't know. I've never heard of any charitable organization, any nothing that he has done with the amount of wealth that he has. I see no compassion in him whatsoever. Again, I'm not telling him what to do with his money, but what else are we here for but to help one another? Because think about it. If you've been blessed with X amount of funds, the bottom line is you can't take it with you. So you spend your whole life accumulating trillions of dollars that you just gonna end up leaving for somebody else to squander. And you could have took that $1 trillion and really did great things with it. Uh, uh, could have given to the St. Jude Hospital. You could have went to every state in the union and created these massive uh, homeless projects to get these homeless people up. Man, you could have done a lot, but no, all you was concerned about is accumulating for yourself, so that when you die, your family can fight over your asset, because that's all they're going to do. And I can guarantee you, when they get it, they're going to go through it like water. But I
Yeah.
digress.
Before we move on, and speaking of, his whole objective is accumulating wealth. Elon's got like 10 kids. He's got a bunch of kids, and he says that he's helping, his the negative birth rate that we have in the world. But if you don't live in the house with these kids are just gonna grow up and be dysfunctional. So again, it's another selfish means because these children are gonna suffer. Yeah, I mean you could throw money at them, but what is that for emotional support?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's sad, but I mean, so America, look at the situation that we're in. So Trump is going to be uh, sworn in as president here in less than a week now. Yeah,
Mhm.
less than a week. No,
6 days.
yeah, the day the 14th. Yeah, Monday. He gets sworn in on the 20th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, on Martin Luther King's birthday. Wow. Um, he's going to get sworn in, and all bets are off. Then the gloves are off. It's like some cage animal that you had locked up in a cage that's just been going wild, and you ain't fed it, you ain't did nothing to it, and it's wild, it's screaming, it's hollering, it wants out of that cage, and all you gotta do is just open that cage, and when you open that cage, you better stand back. And when he gets sworn in, you better watch Frankenstein come out the castle. 'Cause that's what's gonna happen. And all the stuff he claimed he was going to do, wanted to do, might do, he's going to give it a grand gesture. Sad thing is, are the congressmen and senators and all that's up there, are they going to allow him to just run amok? Or is somebody going to put their foot down and stop the madness? That's what
Yep.
y'all going to have to figure out. Because if not, you better be looking to vote those people out of office if they're not going to keep him under lock and key. Because, I mean, he can do some serious damage. Now, again, I know Monk was talking about going through and eliminating all these programs we had, which I do think we should go through our programs and make them better and more efficient. But to just go up there and say, I'm just going to eliminate X, Y, and Z without looking at the whole thing on what it was doing and what it was supporting is dangerous. And again, the people that supporting all this mess are the ones that's going to be affected. That's the killer right there. All y'all that support this madness, y'all the ones that's going to be affected by it. Y'all going to look up one day and like, man, what happened to this? What happened to that? Why can't I do this anymore? Because y'all followed that fool up in there. That's all I can tell you.
You know what I look forward to?
What?
I look forward to him and Trump bumping heads because both of them got big egos. And there's going to be something they don't agree on. And just like Trump did with everybody else in his first cabinet, they all fell out. I'm waiting to see if him and Elon is going to fall out.
You know what? You bring up a very interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
We need to put a pin in that because you're right. Because I'm pretty sure Elon probably has a whole nother agenda in his mind that
He
he's
does.
looking at. When they get up there, yeah, I can see that. I can see them bumping heads because he's going to be thinking on another level, whereas Trump just thinking about absolute power, however he wants to do it. And you know what's funny? Speaking of that, right quick, when he was talking about how Russia is what they are, and yet who is he friends with? You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
he's friends with uh whatever his name is, Putin, whatever.
Putin.
Yeah. And I think he wants to adopt and run the country just like what Putin has. Putin pretty much has total control,
Yep.
along with the what few billionaires they got that's running everything. And can't nobody touch him, and he do what he want, how he want, run the country how he want, and that's what uh doggone it, what's his name? Trump want.
Yeah.
Trump wants to do that. So I mean, y'all gotta start looking between the lines when the stuff are happening and who's associated with who and what's going on. But I'm telling you, America, everybody keeps saying that this is going to be a great 4 years or good 4 years for the economy and so forth and so on. It's only going to be good for the people that got money.
Did you
Before,
notice, or not to cut you off, but while you talking about money, did you know that they wanted to raise the debt ceiling?
yeah, I heard about that. I heard about that. Yeah, because he been talking about that. He basically wants unlimited expense to do whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think that's going to be one of the things he's going to put forth when he gets in. It was supposed to be because that was in that was what was in that package, and they didn't want it. They weren't going to vote on it because that's what he wanted in that package to eliminate the debt ceiling, and they wouldn't do it. So
Yep.
that means they do have a backbone, and they'll stand up to him if they did it for that. They'll do it for something else, I hope. But I mean, I don't know I don't know what these next 4 years are going to be for the common man, but for the rich man, it's probably going to be beautiful for him because he ain't gonna have to pay no taxes. He gonna have all kind of tax loops, and he gonna be able to keep all his money. So it's gonna be great for the corporate man, but for the common man, the everyday man, the one that goes out and breaks his back every day and goes to work and puts up with all the BS that he has to put up with in order to make it for his family, it may be bad for him, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But that was very interesting. I'm glad you had brought that up, Quentin, because I never heard that term before. But as they explained it and how things are, I'm like, well, damn, that's what we in. That's us. That's America. It,
Yep.
it just ain't full blown yet, but I think it's getting to that point.
Yep.
I don't know. Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope. I don't have anything.
All right. All right. Well, this next video we're gonna watch real quick. Most of y'all should know if you don't. Um, Fannie Lou Hamer was a civil rights activist, um, trailblazer, um, what do you call ground roots worker. You need to check her story out. What we're going to listen to is like an abbreviation, but it gets to a certain point. That I want is a section that I wanted to bring out. But this lady here, I'm I don't know. I'm shocked they ain't made a movie about her. She was something to go through what she went through in order for equality for all. She took a lot, but there's a point we want to bring out that even her own party, and this is why we say we need to do away with these parties. Her own party tried to run her in the ground because she was too aggressive. They tell you one thing, but like Quentin was saying, we was talking earlier. Uh, the Democratic Party don't. They tell you one thing, but they don't want. They really don't want that. They don't because they won't do anything about it. A lot of the stuff that we have issues about, they could have been took care of, but they won't. So why did and see everybody keeps saying why Kamala uh, didn't win because she didn't really run on nothing. They claim she had a policy and platform, but how can you run on something that you've already had a chance to fix and you didn't fix it? So you've been in office for 4 years. You fixed nothing that you're arguing about, that you're trying to make a point about, and now you want us to reelect you for another 4 years to give you a chance to do what? If you didn't fix it in this 4 years. Just a point. Anyway, we'll watch this little short one and we'll talk about it. Do, 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 do. Goodbye, Bernie. Do.
Hamer was a force to be reckoned with, enduring intractable racism, police beatings, and even forced sterilization. She never stopped working for equal voting rights for all. This is the tragic real-life story of Fannie Lou Hamer. Born on October 6, 1917 in Montgomery County, Mississippi, Fannie Lou was the 20th and youngest child of Lou Ella and James Townsend. Both Lou Ella and James worked as sharecroppers their entire lives. When Fannie Lou was just 6 years old, she joined them despite having endured a bout of polio just a year earlier. Hamer was 8 years old in 1925 when she saw Joe Pullum, a local sharecropper, lynched. In an interview with Jack Odell in 1965, she said, "I remember that until this day, and I won't forget it." Poverty forced Hamer to drop out of school at the age of 12, and by the age of 13, she was picking as much as 400 pounds of cotton in a day and receiving $1 for her work. Since Hamer had learned how to read and write during her brief time in school, she also worked as a record keeper on the plantation and soon discovered just how the owners would cook the books to cheat the poor sharecroppers out of their fair wages. To offset this, Hamer began secretly tilting the scales to ensure people weren't cheated. She later recalled, "I didn't know what to do, and all I could do was rebel in the only way I could rebel." In 1944, Fannie Lou married Perry Pap Hamer, a tractor driver on a local plantation. 17 years later, in 1961, she underwent surgery to remove a small cyst in her stomach. When she woke, she discovered that she'd also been given a hysterectomy without her consent. According to PBS, this type of forced sterilization was so common at the time that it became referred to as a Mississippi appendectomy, a term coined by Hamer herself. On June 8, 1964, Hamer testified before a panel in Washington, D.C. that at the North Sunflower County Hospital, 6 out of the 10 Negro women that go to the hospital are sterilized with the tubes tied. Forced sterilizations have a dark history and an equally dark present in the United States. Indiana passed the first forced sterilization law in 1907. And while they hit their peak in the 1930s and 1940s, targeting those deemed to be criminals or unfit by the 1950s, sterilization laws started targeting welfare recipients as well. Forced sterilizations were frequently racially motivated. This became abundantly clear when Mississippi proposed a bill that would make it a felony for a parent on welfare to have more than one child. Jail time could be avoided if the parent consented to sterilization. Ultimately, sterilization was removed from that bill, but untold women like Hamer still were sterilized without their consent. On August 31, 1962, Hamer and 17 others went to the courthouse in Indianola, Mississippi to register to vote. According to PBS, most of the group was blocked from even attempting to register. Only Hamer and one other man were allowed to fill out an application and take a literacy test. At the time, literacy tests were purposefully designed to keep black people from voting. And when Hamer was asked to explain de facto laws, she later recalled that, "I knowed as much about a facto law as a horse knows about Christmas Day." After failing the literacy test, the group was denied the right to register to vote. On the way home, their bus was stopped by police and fined $100 for being too yellow. Then the persecution got worse. The owner of the plantation where Hamer worked and lived demanded that she withdraw her application to vote.
Mr. Marlowe told me that I would have to go down and withdraw my registration or leave because they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi.
Hamer refused and was immediately thrown off the plantation where she had lived and worked for 18 years. She temporarily stayed with a friend before finding a new home, and just narrowly missed being murdered by those who were trying to suppress the black vote.
They shot in the house 15 times thinking that I was there.
On January 10, 1963, Hamer was finally able to pass the literacy test. According to The Nation, after her second attempt on December 4th, she told the registrar, quote, "You'll see me every 30 days till I pass." A month later, she passed. But despite now being registered to vote, she discovered that she still wasn't allowed to vote because she didn't have any poll tax receipts. In some parts of the United States, people were required to pay a tax in order to vote. A tax put in place to ensure that the poorest people, who were often people of color, didn't get a voice in the government. And they weren't subtle about this fact either. For instance, in 1939, Alabama's Tuscaloosa News published an editorial that read in part, "This newspaper believes in white supremacy, and it believes that the poll tax is one of the essentials for the preservation of white supremacy." In 1962, the United States passed the 24th Amendment, which outlawed poll taxes for federal elections. Despite this, Hamer was still denied the right to vote a year later because it wasn't really enforced until 1965. And to this day, 8 states, including Mississippi, still haven't ratified the amendment. While Pap worked to pay off their sharecropping debt at the plantation, Hamer continued working toward voter registration and desegregation. On June 9, 1963, Hamer and 9 other activists were returning on a bus from a voter registration and civic education training session in Charleston, South Carolina. The activists had tried to integrate lunch counters at the various bus stations along their way home, and their protests had enraged their bus driver. According to Fannie Lou Hamer, America's Freedom-Fighting Woman by Megan Parker Brooks, the driver began using the phone at every stop, reporting their location to Mississippi police. In Winona, Mississippi, police arrested at least 6 of the activists, even those who'd remain on the bus, and took them to jail. Hamer and her fellow activists weren't released from jail until June 12th. And in those 3 days, Hamer sustained such severe and prolonged beatings that she suffered from lifelong damage to her kidneys, eyes, and legs. In addition to beating the activists themselves, police also forced the other black people who were also imprisoned in the jail at the time to beat the activists as well. While there was later a brief trial, the police were cleared for their actions. After several failed attempts to work with the all-white pro-segregation Mississippi Democratic Party, Hamer co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and in 1964, she went to the Democratic National Convention in an attempt to get representation. As a result, she received death threats. When she reported them to the police, they told her, quote, "Don't look to us for help." On August 22, 1964, Hamer testified before the Credentials Committee at the Democratic National Convention. She started by stating her full name and home address, defiantly signaling her fearlessness to every white supremacist. According to the Washington Post, President Johnson was terrified that her testimony at the convention would break up the coalition of white Southern delegates he needed to get elected. He tried to convince her not to speak, but when she did anyway, he abruptly called a pointless live press conference so the TV broadcast would have to cut away from Hamer's testimony. It backfired, bringing more media attention to Hamer's testimony than it otherwise might have gotten, with many evening news programs giving full coverage of the speech that Johnson had interrupted.
Because our lives be threatened daily. Because we want to live as decent human beings in America.
If you only have a few hundred.
So, what's your take, Mr. Quinn?
That calling her courageous is an understatement. To face everything she faced and to never, not even thought about giving up, is she's an incredible person. 1, 2, when I see all of that has been done in American history, natives and but more recently, like we watching now, black people, Jim Crow and all that. I just don't understand how people can be so evil. I don't understand how do you even justify, how do you convince yourself that you're doing the right thing?
That's the $1 million question, brother. I asked the same thing. I mean, for human beings to be that hateful towards one another, all for the sake of just wanting a fair chance. But let me point out something to you, America, that you need to really take a grasp of. And don't take it personal. I want you to listen to what I'm saying, because you need to understand the people above us, their whole mission is to divide and conquer us. Their whole mission is to keep us at one another for whatever reason. That's why immigration is such a hot topic, because it keeps us divided and it keeps us focused on stuff that has nothing to do with what's going on in reality that we should be paying attention to. But I want y'all to look back at when they was talking to the segment where she was checking the books trying to help the sharecroppers because they was being cheated by the people that own the land, and they was being cheated. And if you watch that segment, you think they just talking about the black folks, but there was a lot of white sharecroppers too. They just don't talk about it. But there was white sharecroppers too. There was white folks in the same boat as black folks, and they was getting cheated just like the black folks. But the white folks was filling their head up with a bunch of lies that they believed, that made them think that they were better than the black folks, even though they were being cheated just as bad as the black folks. But the people with the money and the power fed them to make them think that they was on the same level as them, to keep them at the black folks, when actually they was just as equal to the black folks, and they were being treated just as bad as the black folks. They just was too blind to see it. They were too blind to see it. But the people with the money and the power, it ain't even about color. It's just about money and power. And they don't want you to have none of it. But they need you. They need you to do the work. They need you to do all the grunt work while they reap the profits. And so they keep you in turmoil, because you got to work, you got to feed yourself, you got to provide for your family, and they keep you right there at that level where you just got to keep going back. Some of the things they used to do that they point out. Also, there's another documentary with Fannie Lou Hamer that's in depth. It's almost like an hour long. It's really good as far as breaking down a lot of stuff. But this is one thing. So they got you where they would deduct stuff. Like, a lot of those landowners own stores, and they allowed you to come to the store and you would buy stuff on credit. Then when it came time for you to harvest the crops, and you brought the crops in, crops brought in X amount of dollars. But now, guess what? I got to deduct all you done borrowed on credit over the month to feed your family. So all the stuff you done got from the store, food and clothing and all that other stuff, guess what? They deduct that at a higher rate. At the end of the thing, you left with maybe $2. They did that not only to the black folks, but they did it to the white folks as well. And they did that because why? Guess what? Now you got to go right back in that field and work again, because you ain't got no choice. And in order to make it through the month, guess what? You got to go back to that store and get these things on credit. Then they're going to deduct it out of your pay when you bring the crop in, and they total up the crop, and then they're going to deduct what you done used, which is usually at a higher rate. They did that to the black folks, and they did that to the white folks. But again, they told the white folks something totally different to make them think another thing, not realizing that they was in the same boat that the black folks was in. Y'all need to realize that. Y'all need to realize that the people with money up there, that has money on the hill up there, them people that got all that money, they ain't sharing it with nobody, don't want to share it with nobody, want to keep it all to themselves, don't give a damn about none of y'all. They don't care about us. They don't care about this world. They don't care about nothing. And there's some movies out, if you ever watch them and pay attention, some old futuristic movies, used to watch, where the movie was set up on that platform. You had like the rich elite, they had everything, and the poor and the ones that didn't have no wealth was down here living like animals. and the rich elite would have it all, and they was living in this little protective dome and all this other stuff, and and then finally the common people had enough, and then they rebelled against the rich folks, and y'all seen those movies. They all same plot, just different storylines, but that's the direction we're going. It's going to get to a point where the rich elite will be here, and we'll be down here, and we'll be down here fussing for scraps, while the rich elite are sitting up here eating their caviar, eating their filet mignon, and their halibut, and all that good stuff. That's what they want. They want you to do the work, shut your mouth, do your work, and take what I give you, and just be happy. Well, I live up here high off the hog, and that's basically the bottom line. So y'all better please pay attention to what's going on, and please react when need to, which means you need to get involved, and you need to be organizing, and you need to be prepared, because that's where we're going. If we keep sleeping behind the wheel, if we keep ignoring what's going on, if we keep fighting amongst each other, this is where we're going to end up at. This whole country, from, just like Quentin said, from the signing of the Declaration, heck, from the time they came over here on the Pinta, the Sita, and the Santa Maria, and all them, whatever they came over here with, and Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and all that crap they talk about. Ever since then, this country has been built on a lie, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bottom line is, just like Quentin said, it's just, you watch that story about Fannie Lou Hamer, and you're right. She that was a miraculous woman, for her to have endured all that and still was willing to fight for what was right and for justice for all. That's a great woman. She'll, who knows, she'll ever get the credit she's supposed to get. But we wanted to bring that out because this is what the parties want. The party want us to be divided. They want us to fight amongst ourselves. They want us to think about what they tell us is true when it's not. Just like Bernie was saying in his presentation, Monks got on his platform and started saying, "Well, the Republicans or the program wanted to do this," when it wasn't, or it was going to take this away from you when it wasn't, or they want money for this, which they didn't. But this is the stuff they feed you, and y'all take it. Y'all eat it up. Y'all suck it down and ask for more. And we got to do better. We got to wake up. We got to wake up. We got to pay attention to what's going on. I mean, it's crazy, man. This world is getting out of control. And if we don't stand up for ourselves, it's going to only get worse, to the point that it's just going to be total chaos. We got chaos now, but it'll be total chaos. Can you imagine? California already paid the highest price for gas. Can you imagine if the whole United States was paying what California was paying? Can you imagine? California prices are undescribable. It takes a millionaire to live in San Francisco. Pull up San Francisco and look at some of the rates for apartments. You'll lose your mind. And not only apartments, uh, studio apartments, one room efficiency. Look at the rates they charging in San Francisco. San Francisco got one of the highest tax rates. I don't even know how many people live in San Francisco, but you got to be a millionaire to live in San Francisco. Imagine if all across the United States we paid the same rates that they were paying in California. It'd be so many homeless people. It'd be so many people down and out. The world would be almost Armageddon, because you couldn't do anything. You couldn't drive your car. You couldn't go to work. You couldn't do nothing. Everybody would be living what they call living hand to mouth. That's what they'd be doing. So I don't know. What's your thoughts, Quentin?
So two things. When you talked about uh, the agenda is to divide and conquer, I agree. And in the video we just watched, they said that LBJ didn't want her to speak because he was scared that her testimony would break up the white coalition in the South, whose votes he needed to win. That's it right there. That's one. And then two, for poor white people who can't seem to either don't or they either won't or they don't want to see the truth of how the powerful, the rich people actually feel about them. Privilege is blinding, and that's something I don't. I think it's something that we've been. I know we say it today, but I don't know how long they've actually been saying it. But privilege is blinding, and so when you're made to feel like you're in the in group, even though you're not in the in group, you kind of feel like you have an advantage, even when materially you don't. Just like for white people being sharecroppers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Definitely. So I really do believe we're at a point where I think now a lot of people are starting to open their eyes. I think a lot of people are starting to see the true picture of what's going on. But hey, that's why we started this truth to freedom. Only the truth, as they say, the truth will set you free. Um, Truth to freedom. Um, we don't know how better to explain it, because if we continue the path that we're on now, we're talking about the total destruction of the American politics or whatever. We're talking about the total dismantle and destruction, because that's what the rich will do. The wealthy is going to just dismantle everything. I mean, they want to dismantle the post office, and they're doing a great job of it, because that fool that's in charge, Mr. Detroit, has systematically slowed down the mail to where people can't even get a mail delivered across the street in a timely manner, much more to another state. What
Yeah.
used to take a day is taking 10 days or more, or if it even makes it two. But this is the person Trump put in charge of the post office, for them to dismantle the post office so that they can sell it off for a profit. And then if they get a hold of it like they want, they're going to charge you some ungodly amount of money for you to get your mail. And if you don't pay it, you won't get your mail. That's what they want. Because it's the only system set up that goes door to door. Can you imagine so in essence, because that we're a service provided by the government, we're just here to serve. It's not for profit. But if they ever dismantle us and sell us off for profit and sell it to a private entity, then their whole goal will be to make profit off of giving you the mail, and they won't care whether you get your mail or not. The bottom line will be it's going to cost you $50 a month for you to get your mail delivered to your door. Either you pay it or you don't. If you don't pay it, you won't get your mail. I mean, that's what they want. They want to sell it off for profit, and then sell it to the private industry and let them run it, and then charge you some ungodly amount of money for you to get your mail. That's where they're going to. So pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to the things that people are voting on and trying to put in place, because it's like one of the last monopolies. The Postal Service is a monopoly because we're the only system in America that goes door to door. And if you talk to FedEx and UPS, and they've said it, they said it's not economically feasible for them to go door to door, because the cost to ratio on fuel and whatever would be extra. It would just be I can't think of what I'm trying to say. It'd be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And they used to give out some of them numbers. It's like it'd be they would go broke trying to go door to door every day. That's basically what it boiled down to. They could not pay the salaries that they pay, and the wear and tear and the upkeep of the vehicles would run them in the ground. Fuel prices alone would bankrupt them if they had to go door to door every day, whether you had anything or not. Post office was already set up to do that. Has been doing it for years, because we do it as a service for the government, as part of the Constitution, and we already do it. And we make enough money off of the products and service that we do, that we are self-efficient. We get no tax dollars from the government. There's no tax dollars. Everything is self-funded. So that lets you know how much money that we make delivering mail and packages. So these people that sitting up here on Capitol Hill, they're just biting at the bit to get that money. They want it. They want that money. And they're not scared to charge you a fee for you to get your mail. So when y'all see stuff about the mail, the post office, please get involved and please find out what's going on, because it's going to affect you if you don't. And I'm telling you, they're going to sell us off for a profit, and they're going to sell it to a private company who's been waiting in the wings to get you. And then when you turn around, you'll get a notice talking about if you want further delivery, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. And that's what's going to happen. And then you're not going to pay $50 a month to get your mail. I don't think nobody will. But only the people that can afford it would do that. But think about the people that live in the rural area. Did you think they're gonna be able to afford $50? And who knows? They might say we won't even go out there. We'll just set up a centralized uh, location, and then you got to drive to this centralized location to get your mail. Who can do that every day?
Think about Alaska, who has to certain parts they have to get all their stuff flown in.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, America. Y'all didn't. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. I know they. I've seen it on different shows, but yeah, there's still outposts where they have to fly the mail in. That's the only way they can get their mail. And also in Arizona or New Mexico, one of the two places. There's places where they still hump the mail in by a mule or a horse. In 2024, there's still places out there that are so rural that they have to take the mail and transport it in either on a horse or a mule. In 2024, they still do it. Now you tell me if they do away with the post office and a private company takes over, that they're gonna uh, use pack mules and horses to take the mail out there to them people? Nope, you want your mail, you got to come in here and get it. They're not going to do it. But I'm just, it's just so much America. When y'all start, I'm gonna tell y'all, when y'all start digging into a lot of this stuff, just start just little bits here and there, y'all gonna start finding out so much stuff, and you just gonna find out just how you've been lied to. You've been lied to. You've been lied to. That's all. You just been lied to. The Hispanic people, they're not after your job. They just want a better living just like anybody else. But because they feed you that information about, well, they only do the jobs that uh you won't do. What the hell are you talking about? You mean they do the job that we won't do? Everybody's doing something else. It ain't that they don't want to do the job. It's just that they're doing something else now. They doing Uber and YouTube and all these other things that they're trying to make money off of. So they're not available to do those other jobs. It ain't that they won't do them. They just ain't. They just moved on to something else. But they're there to fill in the gap. That's fine. They can fill in the gap. But you know what's funny? Even they evolve. Now, when our Hispanic brothers and sisters come across the border, each generation gets smarter and smarter. Y'all don't even realize that. You know, if you think I'm lying, look at New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. But it's definitely Arizona and New Mexico. They have a lot of Hispanic brothers and sisters in power. There's a lot of Hispanic sisters and brothers in government offices, sheriffs, all these high post positions in government. They're being run by Hispanics. Why? Because they came over here, simulated, and started dry. They knew where they had to do better. They knew that in order to see change for their people, they had to be in these key positions in order to give them access to what they need to get them access to. So they ain't stupid. Same with the people from India. These people ain't stupid. They smart. They come over here to get that education. They always gravitate to where the best education is for high school and all that other stuff. That's where they gravitate to. And that's what they do. They pursue, get that education, and then they go off to do great things. Some of them go back to their country, some of them stay here. But we here and we just throw everything away. We just don't even, I mean, we don't even take advantage of what we got. And then when the people start telling you all this rhetoric, y'all believe it. Y'all got the same opportunities anybody else have. You really do. It ain't as a suppressive uh arena now as it was. Anybody out here can do whatever they want if they so desire to do it. But if you listen to the people above us that's trying to keep us divided, then they'll tell you no. They'll tell you this, they'll tell you that. You know, we don't need no diversity and all that because anybody out here can do whatever they need to do. Let me tell you something. If you're not happy with an establishment, then don't go there. Don't go there. I guarantee you they'll change their mind because it's all about money. So, but if these people want to have an establishment where they they do whatever they do, fine. That's America. Let them do what they want to do. Because you have the same opportunity to go open up your own business for what your own thing is and support your own people. You got that right. So who cares what they do? They don't want to cater to you or they believe in you. Go start your own. Go start your own. I don't need the government to do anything for me. Just start your own. They can't stop you. That's the great thing about now. They can't stop you from doing what you want to do. Do what you got to do. So you got anything to add, Quentin? I'm just running off at the mouth right now.
I'm gonna say this because I wrote this down too. Speaking of studying things for yourself and being lied to, we make a lot of stuff legal that isn't necessarily right, and that the law is sometimes used to justify injustice. So have the moral courage of Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Amen. Amen. Well, we're gonna leave it on that. That was y'all heard him. Amen. I mean, he can't make it no more clear than that. So we're gonna end on that. We're gonna end on that. All right, America. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for listening in. If you have a comment, question, opinion, whatever, of course, you can leave us a description down there in the description in the comment section. Or if you look at the description, our email address is there. Send us an email. I still check my email. Nobody sends an email. And I know we done talked about some stuff that some people had something to say about whatever, but y'all don't send no email, so we can't talk about it. So, but you can send us an email, leave a comment. Please share, like, leave a review. Let this podcast go out to the masses out there, and hopefully it'll touch somebody's sensitivity that they'll listen and understand what we're trying to talk about. We're not trying to divide nobody. We ain't trying to tell nobody to go to one or another. We want you all to be independent thinkers, and we want you all to realize it's not just about you, but it's about us. It's about you, and it's about me. It's about all of us. Whatever I can do to help you, that's what I want to do. And whatever you can do to help somebody else, that's what I want you to do. And that's how we get ahead. When we help one another, lift one another up. Just like they said, I get to a certain point, I'm going to reach down and pull somebody back up with me and help them and excel and help them excel. I'm not going to leave them down there. Like some people, once they get to a certain level and then they forget about where they came from. We need to pull each other up. We can all live in a quality of life, but everybody's not going to be Elon Musk. But we all can live a comfortable life and not have to suffer and not have to worry about this person taking the blunt of everything while I live high off the hog. Anyway, that's our spiel, America. We love you. And as always, until the next time, God bless.